It's time to talk golf on Prime Sports Network as we introduce a new analyst to our channel. Had an opportunity to talk some football, fantasy football / NFL / college football before the NFL draft. And lo and behold, found out that Jared Smola is also a big time golf fan and handicapper. So I said, whoa, wait a second. I don't want to do this by myself any longer. So let's get Jared on the show from Draft Sharks. Jared, thanks for doing this. I'm looking forward to talking golf with you for as long as we can make this work.
Yeah, Greg, I'm so pumped. As you mentioned, I'm a fantasy football guy, full time day job. But I've sort of been a closet golf handicapper for 4-5 years now. So I'm excited to get out and actually be able to talk about it with you.
Should be fun. Matter of fact, we have, and I've explained this before in future on our shows over the last couple of months. The system, the points formula that we put together. So we'll just continue to talk about that when we go over our picks. So we're gonna have 7 picks each every week, and the formula just goes on from $100 basically, if you want to look at it that way, or 100 points, 100 credits, all the way down to 10. And this gives us an opportunity now to not only get my 7 picks, but you'll get yours. And what I like to do is I usually, because it's such a tough sport to handicap, I usually have, like, I'm sure you do too, probably, like, especially if I'm trying to whittle it down to 7, I probably have like a 12 or 15 that I start my first cut down list. So I like to get your picks first. So then this way, because I don't like doubling up. It doesn't make any sense for me to get 3 picks and you get the same. So more variety, especially since I could go 10 deep, 11 deep. And there were already several picks that I noticed that I liked as well as you. So we'll get into that. But again, this gives us an opportunity. I know this week, at least, we're going to have 14 players on our list for everybody to choose from, whether it's just a win or for fantasy. And I know the fantasy game is something I've never played. So maybe you can even fill me in a little bit with the differences between just putting money down on somebody to win as opposed to the fantasy game.
Yeah, so I dabble in DraftKings, which is a salary cap based fantasy game. So that sort of adds a different element. Or I guess, when you're betting outrights, you're factoring in the odds. When you're playing DraftKings, you're factoring in each player's salary. And to me, the biggest difference, like when I'm betting outrights, I'm concerned with ultimate upside. I want to bet guys that I think can, can come in first place out of a field of 150 guys or whatever. As DraftKings, if your guy comes in 8th place and he's one of your cheaper golfers, like that's good. So it's the player pools are definitely a little different when you're talking, DraftKings versus outright betting.
Okay. Well, I mean, again, it's a variety too, right? I guess they give you an opportunity, what you like, what you prefer. So it's not just one specific formula you have to abide by. Is that true? Is that how it works? Do you have like different like, okay, do you want to play this game or you can play this game, or is the games differ only by the websites and the different companies you go to?
The game format's pretty similar. The salaries will differ from site to site. So you can, shop sites, and, if one guy is, a relatively better value on, one site, you could play him and then, not play him on the other site. So the salaries definitely differ from site to site.
All right. Well, I'll tell you what. I'm going to start by asking you. I didn't ask you this beforehand, so I'm going to put you on the spot. Give me a player on the PGA Tour this season, and I'm not talking about like an Alexander Noren, who's never won a PGA Tour event, but give me a player who's never won a PGA Tour event who you think, or you are going to wager on. You feel pretty confident you're gonna wager on this player.
Yep.
A number of times this season because you think he's going to break his maiden, and you think also because, hey, you know what, he's probably going to be 50-1 each week, 75-1, 100-1, and I'm going to try to take advantage of that because I think he's going to break his maiden. So give me a few players who you kind of are high on, like maybe sort of like a futures type of pool.
Well, there's a player in this field that's actually on my list that the first name that came to my mind. It's Cameron Young. He's been close a few times now over the past couple months. He bombs the ball. His irons are hot and cold, but he can get hot, and he's also a really good putter. So that the combination of the excellent driving and putting kind of reminds me of like Bryson. Like that's kind of Bryson's game. When he wins, he is going to lead the field in driving. He's going to make a bunch of putts too. So Cam Young's kind of like a poor man's healthy Bryson to me. And I do think he's going to win this season. Whether or not it's this week, we'll see.
Yeah, because you mentioned, and that's why I was shocked that he finished third at the RBC. Because I was like, well, there's no way Cameron Young is going to play well at that golf course with the narrow fairways. And he did. He was like, he got up to such a great start, finished third. Matter of fact, he has 7 top 35s in his last 9 events with 2 top 5s and a runner-up. He's got the 2 KFT wins in 2021 and 2 runner-ups on the PGA Tour since then. So he's 28-1 this week, and he's actually your 3rd pick of the week. Which puts him right there at your $50 allotment. So Cameron Young is on your list this week, as you mentioned. You got anybody else?
Yeah, I guess going more towards like the top of boards, and we've kind of lost betting value on him because he's been so good, especially in majors. But Will Zalatoris, I mean, he to me is a top 5, maybe a top 3 iron player in the game. The putting is the issue, especially from within close. Like, don't watch Will Zalatoris try to make a 2-foot putt. But if he ever just has a good putting week combined with his ball striking, he's going to win. And I would not be surprised if his first win comes at a major.
You might be right. He's got that type of game, and he had that really good, didn't he? He had that really good Masters run, didn't he?
He was second in the Masters last year. Yep.
So he's that type of player. Yep. And he almost won, actually should have won at Farmers Insurance. That was the Luke List win. He blew that one. But, it happens when you're young. And he's got to get over it. Because look at Scotty Scheffler. I mean, Scotty Scheffler, you knew it was going to happen. And you knew that when it happened, like those types of players are so talented, then all of a sudden the gates opened up. I didn't expect them to open up to that extent, but they sure opened up for Scotty Scheffler, who actually, I think I have 3 winning picks. Do I have 3 winning picks or 2? I have 2 or 3. I think I have 2, and they're both Scotty Scheffler. On my 7, I think I have 7 events that I've handicapped this season, and he's been both winners for me in the match play and then the Masters. So it can happen, and it can happen fast. Now, what about Naismith? He's your 4th pick. What are the odds on him? I forgot. I didn't have the odds on him.
DraftKings has him at 100-1.
100-1. All right. So he's your 4th pick at 100-1. Yeah. You got $40 on Naismith. Tell me why you have Naismith. And by the way, I want to let everybody know, first of all, that this is a very difficult course for us to handicap because we have pretty much nothing to go on unless we want to use 2017 and 2018 at Quicken Loans national events, which were played at TPC Potomac. I use that maybe a little bit, but not too much. At least I know that they've got some experience on the grounds. So this is kind of hard because we don't have anything to kind of look back as far as past performances on the golf course.
And I believe the course has even undergone at least a partial redesign since 2018.
That too.
So we don't know a whole lot. I mean, it's a par 70. I think it's interesting. I think last week the Mexico Open was a total bombers course, just long course, wide open fairways. This week seems like the exact opposite. I mean, I think it's gonna be more of an accuracy course. Find the fairway off the tee. Distance isn't as important off the tee, and then hit your irons well.
All right.
So that's actually one of the reasons I like Naismith. He's not a bomber, but he's excellent with his irons. He is 14th in strokes gained approach over the last 3 months. He finished 12th at Heritage, which I think is a pretty good comp for this course. A shorter par 70. Naismith was 3rd at the Valspar three events back, so he's been popping. I think he's a guy who, again, if his putter cooperates, is going to win pretty soon here, and I'm getting him at 100-1.
Yeah, matter of fact, he has 1 KFT win, still looking for his first PGA Tour victory. And then there's another player that is still Adam Svenson. He's still looking for his first PGA Tour win, correct?
He is, yeah. He's a guy I've been betting quite a bit this season.
Have you?
With no luck so far, but
okay.
So I like Svenson on shorter courses, and his results this year kind of back that up. He was 7th at the Sony Open, which is a short, I believe it's a par 70, might be a 71. He was 9th at the Honda Classic. That's a short course. And he was 26th at Heritage. So I like him on these short courses. He's another really good iron player. He's a bad putter. That's definitely a theme of my picks. Like I'll bet the bad putters and just hope they, kind of get hot, get lucky
hot.
One.
That's right. Yeah. I don't
Yeah.
mind
So
that myself. Is that if you get a bad if you take that approach, like you said, all you're looking for, especially with the long shots, is just get hot for the week. That's it.
yeah, just once, just
Yeah,
4 rounds.
yeah. And then usually that's why those types of players will go out there, they'll get a win, and then you probably don't hear from them again for another
Yeah.
like year or two.
And
But that's
Svenson
okay.
is 200. Svenson's 250 to 1. So that's a bomb.
That's a big one, and you got them on your alternate list. And we have two alternates, $10 a piece. The alternates are pretty much just two. Really, the main reason for the alternates are for the obvious reason, in case anybody withdraws before the event starts. Like my old system, I never used to be able to count them. I didn't have any money on them, so if you didn't need them, then and they went out and won, then I didn't make any money off of them. So I figured, well, let me at least put $10 in there. So even if we don't actually use them for the alternate reasons, so we don't have our 5 official picks, at least if they win, $10 times 250, that's not bad.
Not bad.
So that works. And so does Cameron Davis, who's your second alternate. Now, Cameron Davis, who had a win last year, and you take a look at him, and he's been trending in the right direction.
This Cam is kind of similar to the other Cam Young, where he's a bomber. And I by the way hit Cam Davis at the Rocket Mortgage last year, so I definitely have a soft spot for him.
Okay, yes.
Yeah,
I do that too.
Yeah, it was a rough start to this season for Davis, but like you said, he has been trending in the right direction, and he finished third last time out at the Heritage, which again is a shorter course. These are also bent grass greens this week for only the second time this season, I believe. The Masters are bent grass greens, and will be on bent this week. And bent grass is Cam Davis's best putting surface, so I think it might help him have one of his better an above average putting week.
Awesome. And by the way, he just beat out Aaron Rye. I know you were close, and we're going to talk about some of the other players that were contenders for each of our top 7s. But Rye is also trending in the right direction, not coming off a third place finish, but he is heading in the right direction. And it's interesting, players like Rye and Matthias Schwab, I just find it interesting how, last year they're just, European Tour players that, when you watch the European Tour, every once in a while, especially Schwab, he's like an up and comer. But Rye, you would see him pop up on the leaderboard every once in a while. But they've now I don't know if it was COVID or if this is just a new switch, but it's unusual to see these guys for Europe who don't have like a lot of success winning, then decide to come over here, get the PGA Tour card, and start playing on the PGA Tour. So again, I don't know if this is just a new thing. Maybe it's just a few guys that just felt that. Who knows? Maybe they got connections in the States and they want to live there, or whatever the case may be. It's obviously a lot easier to win on the European Tour golf field as opposed to here in the U.S. But Rye's one of these players that has popped up on the leaderboard over the last few months. He hasn't finished well. He hasn't put it all together. But guys like Ryan Schwab, I just wonder how much longer. Is this like going to be their new approach? Or are they going to head back on the European Tour? Maybe. I don't know. But it's kind of hard to try to develop yourself on the PGA Tour.
It is, yeah. And it makes those guys tougher to handicap.
Yes.
I think sometimes though we can get good values on them in the outright market because there's not as many PGA stats on them. People don't know their name, so they're not getting bet on DraftKings Sportsbook. So that could help. Yeah, like you said, Rye had the 6th place finish at the Farmers. Kind of struggled for the next handful of events after that, but was better in Mexico last week. I think he's a good fit for this course. I think he's more of the shorter accuracy type player. He's going to find a lot of fairways. So I like his fit on this course this week.
Because it's interesting, because Straka, another Austrian, he won at the Honda, and I would have definitely wagered last year that Schwab would have won before Straka, and that Schwab has got a better career mark than Straka. But that's golf, and that's why you never know how it's going to work out. But the point is that I really feel that Schwab is the player to keep an eye on. But like I said, it'll be interesting to find out if he can actually win first on the PGA Tour, or if this is just going to be a learning experience for him, and then he pops back over to Europe and plays there for another few years and gets more experience and, most importantly, more wins before he comes back on the PGA Tour full time. So we'll see. All right, so we're going to hold your top two picks for now. So now let's go into some of my picks, and we'll start with my two alternates. And I'm gonna one of my alternates is going to be Brandon Wu, and I figured let's put some money on Wu now before he has another good event and those odds start coming down. Because we know how talented he is. He was the 2020 KFT champ. He is in his last four events. He's got a second and a third. Interesting. They were both outside the U.S. Puerto Rico, I guess, U.S. But second last week at Mexico. He's got four top 35s over his last four, and he's coming up a 63 on Sunday. So I just figured, I mean, this kid's very talented. And I don't know whether or not he can truly go out and win yet this early in his career on the PGA Tour, but he is close.
Yeah, young kid, definitely seems like there's upside with Brandon Wu. Just looking through his numbers, man, if he can just figure out the around the green game, he is consistently gaining with his irons. He's pretty good off the tee. Seems to be a pretty good putter based on the numbers. Just needs to figure out that chipping.
And that's always the hardest. That's the feel part. Yeah, that's not easy. And then the other alternate is Keegan Bradley at 28-1. I had a love affair with Keegan a few years ago where he was so consistent, and I would be taking him almost every time he played because he was just a top 25 machine. And you just figured, all right, he's going to win this week. All right, he's going to win this week. I mean, it's Keegan Bradley, and I don't know if people realize this kind of stuff, but he has one win since 2012. That's just amazing. But he's got four top 35s in his last five. He also was fifth at the Players. And he was fifth back in 2017 on this golf course, so he has experience here. And he's coming off an eighth place finish his last time out. So I'll jump on Keegan Bradley as one of my alternates at 28-1.
Yeah, Keegan's like the ultimate. Just needs to putt well, right? His ball striking is always so good. I can't bet Keegan though because I can't stand watching him swing with those irons that are like a foot too short for him. It looks so uncomfortable.
Yeah, he's the putting game is like you just said though. It's a matter of just seeing if he can put it all together. Because really, if you look at it, he's got a few wins, and he's the type of player. And that's one of the things I also look at, and I try to go with golfers that are trending in the right direction. They've got these good numbers over the past 4 or 6 events, that kind of stuff. Bradley's this type of player though, and there are players out there that actually will just win when they're not playing all that great, and nobody's expecting them to win. Keegan Bradley is actually one of those players. Not that he has a ton of wins, but he's just one of those guys. All right, so those are my two alternates. My fifth pick is going to be Beau Hossler at 100-1. And Beau is like one of these inconsistent players. He's terrible off the green. But in this field, I think that maybe we could see one of his good weeks. He has 4 top 20s over his last 8, couple top 5s. He did play on this golf course in 2018 and finished 6th. So I get the feeling he's one of those players. I just asked you that question, and I'm gonna say Beau Hossler for myself is one of those players who I think will break his PGA Tour maiden soon.
Yeah, I could definitely see that. He's had some spike weeks this season, as you mentioned. 3rd at Pebble Beach, 4th at Valero, just a couple starts back. Beau Hossler is an excellent putter, and bent grass is his best putting surface. So he could definitely be someone who kind of putts his way to a win this week.
Yeah, because Texas was actually where it looked like he was going to win. He had the tournament there for the taking before the final back 9. But that's what happens every time you look. Even when he's playing well, his numbers off the green are just so bad. You just have to hope that if he's in contention on Sunday in the back 9, that almost like we were saying with putting, that he just kind of puts it together and he doesn't go wayward on his tee shots, because that's the biggest issue.
Definitely.
All right, then my 4th pick, and this is one that I kind of feel good about this one out of my list, and that's Keith Mitchell. Mitchell's going off at 40-1, and he's gone from 249th world ranking to 68th since this time last year. That's very difficult to do. That shows you how far his game has gone. Matter of fact, that kind of started last year when he finished third at Wells Fargo, keeping in mind, of course, that it's a different golf course. And that's the one thing that I think people, again, we were talking about, this was TPC Potomac with this Wells Fargo event. And I kind of miss the fact that they're not playing at Quail Hollow. I like Quail Hollow's golf course. Yeah. It's a nice golf course to watch. It seems like it's a nice golf course to play at. Unfortunately, what is it? Are they getting ready for the Ryder Cup or President's Cup, or what's the deal there?
Yes, the President's Cup, I believe there this fall.
This fall. Okay, there you go. That shows you how good the golf course is, because it's like they've taken off a couple times for these types of events over the last few years. So anyway, Mitchell's my fourth choice. I'm putting $40 on Mitchell.
Man, I did not realize how well Mitchell's been playing. Looks like 5 top 13s out of 7 events this season. So
yes,
that's a good call. I might have to ride with you there on Keith Mitchell.
Yeah, 40-1. That's why I said I got a feeling I really like the odds and the fact that he's been playing so well. And my third choice is Sheamus Power. Now, Power, just like you were saying, with Cameron Davis. Same thing with me with Power. I made some money off Sheamus Power when he won his event last year, so I have a soft spot for him. And and ever since then, he's been playing really well. So if you take a look at Sheamus Power overall, very similar to what we were just talking about with Mitchell. Power last March was ranked 463rd in the world. He's now 40th. That is an amazing run for Sheamus Power. If you take a look over his last 2 events, he was 27th at the Masters, 5th in match play, and he did get an opportunity to play on this golf course both in 2017 and 2018. So are you surprised with how well Sheamus Power has upped his game into the top 50 worldwide?
Yeah, and he's not the youngest guy either. So he was a guy that I kind of thought had reached his ceiling, but he's kind of taken it to the next level, as you've said, over the past few months here. And Sheamus Power 3rd at the Sony Open. That's a short course. 9th at Pebble Beach. That's a short course. So, at least lately, it seems like he's been, taking a liking to these shorter courses.
Okay. And now our final top 2. And Young, by the way, I mentioned that there were 3 players that I was thinking about putting into my list. Young was one of them. And your top 2 were definitely on my final 15 or 12, whatever it was. So first of all, your second pick and my second pick for 70 on these picks, you went with Max Homa at 28-1. I went with Corey Connors at 16-1. And Max Homa, he's got 5 top 35s over his last 6 with 4 top 20s and 1 top 10. Let's keep in mind he won this event at Quail Hollow in 2019. And the only reason I was a little bit hesitant was because if he wins, that's his 3rd win in a year. That's a lot of wins for a player that hasn't had this much success before. But you know what? His ranking is still in the 30s, high 30s, and I think he's a much better player than that. So yeah, I could see him winning this week.
Yeah, if you use that rationale for Scotty Scheffler, you missed a couple wins lately.
Yeah, I think Scotty Scheffler is a little bit better than Max Homa, but I see what you're saying.
That's fair. Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, I mean, Homa's just been playing really good golf over the last 3 months. He's 6th in this field in strokes gained off the tee, and he's 5th in this field in strokes gained approach. He's also really good. He's 10th in this field on par 4s that are 400 to 500 or 450 to 500 yards. And there's 6 of those length par 4s on this course. So he just seems like a good fit for this course. Again, he's playing well. Bent grass is actually Homa's worst putting surface. So that's my one cause for concern with him. But again, his ball striking has just been too good for me to pass on him at this number in this field.
In his field, yeah, that's the other thing too. In his field, I look at the way that he's. Matter of fact, if you look at the players that are odds wise, I mean, here I'll bring this one name up immediately. What on earth? I don't understand what this infatuation with Vegas with Russell Henley. I really don't. I mean, how often does Russell Henley's odds have to be under 40-1 when the guy has 1 win since 2015? Yeah. And I'm sorry, he's not that type of player. He's like a 50-1 type of player every week, not 30-1, which is kind of every time he plays in an event outside a major, that's where Vegas puts him. And he's
It's
20
funny.
to 1 this week. He's ahead of Max Homa.
Yeah. As soon as you started that sentence, I knew you were talking about Russell Henley. I agree. He's always rated, and he's the guy I would like to bet if I could get him at 50 to 60 to 1. I'll tell you why he's always so low is that the stats love him. Like he's his strokes gain numbers are really strong, but it doesn't result in high finishes. It doesn't result in wins. And again, that's a perfect example of a player where I will play Russell Henley on DraftKings all day, but I'm not gonna bet him at the number these books give us.
Oh, okay, interesting. There you go. All right, and then my number 2 pick is Corey Connors, and I've jumped on Corey Connors quite a bit recently because he's on a nice little run. He's still ranked 31st because he just hasn't been able to put another win together since 2019. But I mean, the guy should be close. He's 6 straight top 35s. He was 6th at the Masters. He had a really good run at match play. He did play this golf course in 2018. He is the second choice in this field. But yeah, just recently you take a look. I mean, he just needs to kind of put it all together in that final round, and he hasn't been able to do that.
Yeah, the only reason Connors didn't make my list is just the 16 to 1 number. I just saw some of the other guys as better values, but Connors is an awesome ball striker. He's been playing well recently, as you said. He seems like a perfect fit for this course. He's not the longest guy, but he is super accurate. He's going to hit fairways. His irons are awesome, and if he just makes some putts, he's definitely a guy I'm scared not to have on my card this week.
Yeah, it's interesting because, and I usually do this whenever, like, let's say Rory wasn't playing this week and Corey was the favorite. Well, I wouldn't touch him. I have this thing about golfers who don't have a lot of experience as the favorite to act. I never touch them. And usually you see it a lot at the alternate golf course events and things of that nature. But this would have been a perfect example. It's just, and I know that they know. Because they probably have, whether it's through interviews or word of mouth, or maybe they see it on social media, or they look at the sports books themselves, and I think there's that pressure of not being in that position that you're the favorite to win the event. So, but he's not. But I hear what you're saying about him still being 16 to 1 in the second choice here. That his odds are a little lower than I would have liked as well. Okay, so the top choice for both of us for 100. Is going to be Gary Woodland. You're taking him at 35 to 1, and I'm going to just go ahead and play it safe with Rory at 8 to 1. But Gary Woodland was definitely on my list. 5 top 25s over his last 7. 3 of those top 10s, 2 of those top 5s. Played the golf course here in 2018. He went through a really bad stretch for a while, just figuring out what is going on with Gary Woodland. But since this stretch, or just before this stretch, that's when his game just had fallen off. But now, over his last 7, he seems to have gotten his game going again.
Yeah, he was hurt. I want to say it was a hip that he was dealing with.
Okay.
But he's obviously gotten healthier, as you said. Is playing better. Top 25 in 5 of his last 7. Top 6 in 3 of his last 7. He just seems close to a win to me. He's 4th in this field in strokes gain approach over the last 3 months. His putter has just let him down, and his putter long term has been a problem. But bent grass is actually his best surface, so I like that. And you think about where Gary Woodland's biggest win, U.S. Open at Pebble Beach, which is a short course like this one. He tends to play better at these shorter courses where you can club down and gain accuracy off the tee. So Woodland's a guy I've been betting quite a bit, waiting for that win. So I'm gonna stick with him this week.
Yeah, I like the odds. That's what I really like at 35 to 1, because you're getting a player that is now apparently healthy. His game is good, and this is a good field too, because it's wide open once you get past Rory McIlroy, who's my top choice. And look, yeah, you do like the fact he's coming off a second place finish at the Masters. That's a good thing. It's not the reason I'm taking him, but it's definitely a good. You want to see a guy in form. Let's keep in mind he's the only top 15 player in the field worldwide. So the field is another big reason why I'm taking him this week. And he's not 4 to 1 or 5 to 1. So I'm still getting 8 to 1 with the best player in the field in a field that is. It's sort of like what happened with Rahm last week. If Rahm didn't win, that would have been a surprise compared to the other players that he was having to compete against. McIlroy's got the win last October at the CJ Cup. He is a 2-time Wells Fargo champ at Quail Hollow. So yeah, I think he's due for another win, and 8-1's not too bad.
Yeah, I mean, I can't say anything bad about Rory McIlroy. Like you said, he's easily the class of this field. And one thing I will say again, just about this course, is I do think Rory's distance is going to be less of an advantage here than it would have, say last week. But again, he's the best player in the field. He can go out and win if he brings his A- game. He's going to win this tournament.
Yeah, if you take a look before we wrap up, if you take a look like now at the top 10 overall. I mean, you've got the players like Scheffler and Cantlay and Cameron Smith and Victor Hovland. Like where did those guys come from the last couple of years? Even Colin Morikawa is a young pup that's new to that top. So we know about Rahm, and he's still hanging in there a second, even though he hasn't until this past week. He hadn't really been playing all that great. But it's guys like McIlroy and Justin Thomas and maybe even Jordan Spieth and Dustin Johnson and Xander Schauffele. It's like, yeah, those guys really haven't been on top of their games. They're playing okay. Yeah, every few months they'll get a win, but they're just kind of, I don't know what it is. And I know it's tough to win nowadays on the PGA Tour, but I'm expecting more from those guys.
Well, it definitely feels like there's a changing of the guard in golf right now. I think Scotty Scheffler is kind of, and not that Rory and JT and Xander, those guys aren't old. I think they're in like their late 20s, but it does seem like, these guys in their early 20s, led by Scheffler this year, led by Morikawa last year with all the success he had. And I've kind of struggled with that betting, trying to get my mind wrapped around the fact that, maybe these young guys are now better than the Rorys and the JTs. Like, Justin Thomas was my big bet at the Masters, and he was similar odds, or if not a bit shorter than Scotty Scheffler. So I'm trying to get myself to maybe readjust my thinking when it comes to those quote unquote older guys versus the Schefflers and the Morikawas and the Hovlands.
Jan was actually going to be big on Justin, and then I actually helped to change her mind, so that worked out. But she was.
I should have come on that show.
So she was saying that one of the reasons was she was there on, I don't forget which event, but she was at an event. It might have been, it was definitely one of the, I don't know if he was at Valspar or one of the South Florida events. And that wasn't South Florida, it's North Florida where she is, because she lives in the Tampa, Orlando area. And she says, he's practicing really hard. Yeah. You could just tell, he's really focused. But there's just something about his game, and I think it's probably his putting more than anything. He's just not being able to get, and I think Rory's the same way. I mean, both of them, their putting is just not really been there, and Jordan Spieth the same way. So it's like that part of their game is really just kind of maybe slipped just a little bit.
Thomas was so strange at the Masters. I don't know if you remember, he had the really poor round one.
Yes.
And he said afterwards that he couldn't get focused on the course. Which how can you not focus at Augusta for round one of the Masters? But he was awesome rounds 2 through 4. So if he had just gotten off to a decent start on Thursday, he would have been right there at the end.
He's probably too amped up. That's probably what happened. And we know the talent's there. And then we just also didn't mention someone like Sam Burns. And his game is really starting to. Joaquin Niemann seems to be close. And look at Brooks Koepka, 17th. Worldwide rank. I know he had the injury. I totally get that, but he's supposedly healthy. And I know Brooks is this major guy, but I think he's kind of. I think he understands that. Hey, I got to start winning more events, but he just hasn't been able to do that. Even the win that he had, his last win, what was his last win? It was last year, right?
Phoenix.
Right? That was a surprise. Yep. That kind of came from nowhere. But here's a guy with that much talent, hasn't won since early last year.
Yeah, again, I think it's the changing of the guard thing, and I think that there's just so much talent in golf because you still have those, again, quote unquote older guys. They're still, near the top of their games, but then you have, 10 to 15 excellent young players. So it's just golf is just loaded right now. It obviously makes it even tougher to win.
It is, and it's tough. It's tough for us to handicap. All right. I wanted to just quickly, you got other golfers up there, top contenders, Fitzpatrick, Tony Finau, who shot 63 on Sunday. But it was his first top 5 since last August when he won. And I just can't take somebody that hasn't had back-to-back top fives, even though he played really well. But Tony Finau needs to play well this week again before I take him. Tyrrell Hatton, 10 top 30s in his last 11, but there does seem to be sort of like something like the other guys we were just talking about. There seems to be something missing from Tyrrell Hatton, which is why I just can't take him just yet. So those are some of the other top contenders this week. And I guess you could put Answer in that list as well. Mark Leishman, 20-1, but Leishman has one win since 2019.
Yeah, Answer is an excellent fit here. I just wish he was coming in playing better. He hasn't had a high finish in a while now, so he's off on this. Finau is a guy I'm watching very closely. I love betting Tony Finau. Usually doesn't end up working out for me. I'm not betting him this week because I don't think it's a great course fit for him. He is the longer power player, and I think that's going to kind of be reined in a bit at this course. But I'm sure Finau will be popping up on my lists here in the near future.
Garcia has made 9 straight cuts with 7 top 30s, but it just doesn't look like he's ready to win. I think when he wins again, he's just gonna catch us off guard. One of those things. Webb Simpson, you talk about two free fall players. Webb Simpson at 50-1 has gone from a top 10 player in last year to 44th, and Patrick Reed is 40-1. Another player who was top 10 last year has free fall to 33rd. So those guys are just completely off the map.
Yeah, man, Patrick Reed has been horrible, and the numbers say he's been horrible. You watch him, he's horrible. So that's a strange one. Webb almost made my list here. 50-1 just seems like a good number. And again, he's better at these shorter courses. He is not a long player. He's an accuracy guy. But kind of like Reed, Webb's just not playing well enough. He doesn't have a finish better than 35th this season. So he's just not playing well enough to think about him.
Jason Day and Matt Kuchar are 50-1. Jason Day just has to play like 6 months of pain-free golf before we can count on him. And Matt Kuchar, I was considering because he was 3rd at RBC and 2nd at Texas, throw in the 16th at Valspar. So I was like, well, maybe Matt Kuchar, but I don't know. I just couldn't go with it because he hasn't had back-to-back top 10s since May of 2019. That's 3 years.
Yeah, definitely a good course for Kuchar, right? A shorter course. But if you look at those top 3 finishes at Valero and Heritage, they were all putting. He was just sort of average from tee to green. So that's not something I really want to bank on going forward.
Yeah. So I mean, and I guess my point with the back-to-backs, and it was his first back-to-back top 10 since 2019, and I was like, well, I'm not going to go thinking that now he's all of a sudden going to have 3 straight top 10s. So,
right.
Yeah. But still, he's 50-1. And
then not a bad number.
Yeah. And then some of the other long shot players I was considering, Anirban Lahiri's at 100-1. He has 3 top 15s over his last 4 events, including a runner-up at the Players. And a couple other guys that kind of intrigued me a little bit. Schwab, as we mentioned, has got 3 top 5s in his last 6. Kitayama was 2nd last week, 3rd at the Honda not too long ago. Grayson Sigg, who lost to Brandon Wu, by the way, in the 20 KFT Championship by 1 shot, has 2 KFT wins in 2021 and has made 9 of his last 10 cuts. I'm intrigued by Sigg, but I want to see him maybe with a couple of top 10s first before I take him at 130-1. That's a big number. And the real big long shot that I have my eye on is Bill Haas. Now, Bill Haas is 400-1. He's made 9 of his last 10 cuts. And I just, it's like one of those things where you wonder, does he have it in him? To win on the PGA Tour again at this point in time. But he, that 400-1 number is so intriguing because that's where he is every week now, 200-1, 300-1. So I'm thinking, well, maybe if he just gets like a top 20 and his odds go down to 150-1, then I'm willing to like maybe sacrifice some odds as long as I could see that maybe he could get into contention because that's the last, I think, step for him. Is to kind of feel that contention again on a Sunday.
Mm-hmm. Hey, listen, at 401, you can kind of make the case for anyone at the number, right? Just throw a few bucks on him, and you're good to go.
Anyone else on the list that just missed your cut?
Yeah, last guy for me is Joel Damon. His last time out, 12th at Heritage. He's actually made 6 straight cuts now. That includes a 6th place at Pebble Beach. So again, Pebble Beach heritage, shorter courses like we're going to be at this week. So he's a guy I'm not going to bet, but was definitely on my radar.
All right, sounds good. So now next week is the Byron Nelson. That's the week before major. So we have the PGA Championship in 2 weeks, right?
I believe so. Or is
That's
there
pretty
another
awesome.
event between there?
Yeah. Well, Byron Nelson's next week. Wait. I think it's PGA Championship. 2 weeks.
Sounds
Getting
right.
my calendar here, and then that's in Tulsa, Oklahoma.
Southern Hills.
All right, awesome. And then after that, it's back to Texas. So you got 2 Texas events in between the PGA Championship. So they're going to be all in that neck of the woods. And then we got the Memorial to kick off June. So anyway, and I can't get the PGA Championship here fast enough because since there was a decent field at the RBC, but those guys just weren't really that focused.
Right.
So it's been kind of blah since the Masters. So I can't wait till that's why this week I was hoping that we get a little bit more. I can't imagine we're going to have a great field next week either. Everybody's going to be preparing for the PGA. So I don't know. I think we have to wait a couple more weeks before we get some really good golf.
Yeah, well, I don't know. Next week's field might have to be on the stronger side because not many of the bigger names played last week. Not many are playing this week. They might have to get around it. We'll see. But yeah, definitely pumped for.
That's a good point because you would think if they're going to pick, they're not going to pick Mexico because they haven't played there. They're not going to pick this event because they haven't played there. So at least some of these players have probably played at. I don't know where the golf course is. Has it been this? Do you know if they've been playing at the same golf course there at Byron Nelson, or is that a move? Because I think there's one of those Texas events that actually moved, and I don't know if Nelson was one of them.
I think that has moved within the last 5 years.
It has, yeah, okay,
yeah.
But anyway, I hope so. I hope we have some good. I hope we have a good field next week. But either way, 2 more weeks of the PGA Championship. Can't wait for that. Jared, I appreciate your time today. Looking forward to doing this at least again for the short time being, and hopefully longer than that. Can't wait to get Jan back from Australia. Hopefully they won't imprison her there. Because their rules are a little bit more stricter than here in the United States. So I think she'll be okay, though. Can't wait to have her back talking golf with us here on the channel. And also can't wait to talk some fantasy football with you, too, in the near future.
Yeah, this was awesome, Greg. I'm very happy to be talking golf with you and looking forward to the next few months here.
Let's get some winners then, too, right?
Yeah. Yes, definitely.
Yeah, let's get some credibility going. That's important. Thanks, Jared. We'll talk to you again next week.
All right. See you, Greg.